Where's
we can't
Rishi?
find him in the newspapers this morning. Is it all over for Rishi Sunak?
Forget the newspapers. I'm here on GBNews. That's really what matters. Look, I don't think it's over at all. The really important point is he is out there. He's meeting so many people. So you mentioned that I've been in Cheltenham. He came down to Cheltenham to the racecourse and he gave the most incredible address, and he changes people's minds. And that's what he's going to carry on doing, meeting the members. And, the other thing is this election, the people are going to make these decisions. Yes, they'll read the papers, but these are people who are very kind of politically engaged, and they can see past what's in the papers, and they make their decision on the substance. And on the substance, I just think he's incredibly impressive, incredibly persuasive, and he's the right man for the job.
Well, Michael Gove clearly has agreed with you, but in terms of the strategy of the campaign, a lot of people saying, why wasn't Michael Gove encouraged to say this a lot earlier in the campaign and give you some headway?
Well, look, everyone's got to make their own decisions about when they come out. I've been very clear from the outset that I think he's absolutely the right person for the job. But look, the real thing is, regardless of when people come and voice their support, what do they say when they do it? And if you look at those who have supported him, the Michael Goves, William Hague, Danny Finkelstein, Michael Howard, Norman Lamont, people who are titans of the Conservative Party, people who've seen it all and know about these critical judgments. And they see in Rishi somebody who wants to grip the great pressing issue facing our country, inflation, and is not going to try and sugarcoat it. And I think that tells its very, very powerful message. So, so I think one of your earlier commentators mentioned that Michael Gove is a very, very able man. Of course he is. And to have his endorsement whenever it comes is massively significant.
Yeah, I mean, but it all depends how many people haven't already cast their vote, if you see what I mean. We're told that, I don't know how anyone can know this, actually, we're told that something like 60% of Tory party members have already cast their vote. Do you think you could possibly make up what looks like, falling behind at the moment to Liz Truss?
Well, and I respectfully, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, because how do we know how many people have voted? How do we know, by the way, that those people who the polling companies are speaking to are members of the Conservative Party? It's very, very difficult to poll. So, look, yes, I certainly think it can be pulled back if indeed that's the situation in the first place. And the reason for that is because every time I see him speaking to people, people will start, they'll give him a fair hearing and they'll listen intently. And by the end, they're thinking, oh, my goodness, this guy is extraordinarily special. I mean, William Hague called him a rare find in British politics. But even more important than that, when I knock on doors, and I do almost every day in Cheltenham, he is the candidate who can reach across. In other words, both candidates are speaking to the party. Rishi Sunak can speak to the country.
Let's sort of go back to basics, if you pardon that phrase from the John Major era. Is it a job worth having to be the Prime Minister? Because we're looking at the front of the Observer. It's got this latest opinion poll, and they're actually putting Liz Truss dropping back down to 23% as a potential Prime Minister, while Keir Starmer, who announced the price cap policy on energy on last Monday, he's increased his score to 31%. So Labour and its leader have got a double poll boost days after announcing that energy policy.
Yeah, well, look, it is absolutely essential that we have the right person doing the job at a time like this, because if those polls were to lead to a Labour government, I genuinely fear for this country, because as you well understand, you people who study this stuff, Labour can't win without going into some sort of arrangement with the SNP, no doubt on the promise of a referendum or whatever, and the Liberal Democrats. And that is a coalition which would genuinely tear our country apart. So, yes, of course, this is an incredibly difficult time. But one, we need the right person so that we can win the next general election. But two, we need that person to make these critical judgments over the next 18 months. Because, if we get it wrong, then inflation becomes, it's already a big issue, but it becomes an even bigger issue, and it's this great destroyer, as Margaret Thatcher called it. So we need the right person to make the right decisions for jobs and livelihoods in this country, and the right person to take the fight and to win hearts and minds in the country at the next election. And on both those scores, I think Rishi Sunak's the right person.